topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
What's working on purpose anyway? Each week, we ponder the answer to this question. People ache for meaning and purpose at work, to contribute their talents passionately and know their lives really matter. They crave being part of an organization that inspires them and helps them grow into realizing their highest potential. Business can be such a force for good in the world, elevating humanity. In our program, we provide guidance and inspiration to help usher in this world we all want, working on purpose. Now, here's your host, Dr. Elise Cortez.
Welcome back to the Working on Purpose program, which has been brought to you with passion and pride since February of 2015. Thanks for tuning in this week. Great to have you. I am your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. If we have not met before and you don't know me, I'm an organizational psychologist and logotherapist, speaker, and author. My team and I at Gusto now help companies to enliven and fortify their operations and increase profitability by articulating their purpose and building inspirational leaders and cultures activated by meaning and purpose. Our mission is to help companies create destination workplaces where people flock to join, are intrinsically motivated to perform at their best, can grow into their fuller potential, and are committed to stay and dynamically deliver on the company's mission, which can all translate to higher profits. You can learn more about us and how we can work together at gusto-now.com and my personal site, elisecortez.com. Now, getting into today's program, we have with us what you might call my brother in arms. His name is Darrin Tulley. He's the CEO and founder and chief of possibilities of Ignite Happy, a positive management consulting group on a mission to realize endless possibilities for human-driven organizations by guiding employers in co-creating happier, highly involved workplaces. The group facilitates positive change within organizations through purposeful people-focused practices and joyful inclusion as the spark to raise engagement and business results to new heights. He is the author of Live Your Possible, Ignite Your Happy, Authentic Self, and Live a Fulfilling Life Rooted in Joy, Inclusion, Love, and Possibilities, which we'll be talking about today. He joins us today from Hartford, Connecticut. Darrin, a hearty welcome to Working on Purpose.
Dr. Elise, I'm so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And it's so great to have you. As I was saying before we got on, it is a little amazing to me just how similar we are in terms of our expressions, our paths, what we're putting into the world. I'm so happy to share you with my listeners and viewers around the world. They need lifting.
I'm glad to be here. Yeah, I was reading your book and I was really giggling because I knew it was coming. It was great. And I appreciate you having me on.
Well, I'm looking forward to being on your podcast as well. I didn't mention that you're also a podcast host. So listeners and viewers, those of you who are watching us via YouTube, look at this gorgeous thing he put into the world, Live Your Possible. And let me tell you, Darrin, this is a generous book. This is a beautiful book, chock full of resources and exercises. You really gave a lot of yourself. It's gorgeous.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I never planned on writing a book and then life happens.
I know it wrote you, it sounds like. So that's what happens when you give yourself over to purpose. I know. So speaking of purpose, I want to start how it kind of maybe got sparked. At least I want to at least see if I'm on the right track here. You share with us in your book, Darrin, about your beginnings and that you were a premature baby by 7 weeks, born in 1970. You arrived early and you were behind your peers for years and scored core skill development. And for the first several years of your life, nothing ever came easy to you, you say. It took a lot of effort. And I can imagine you write something in your book that just kind of made me, it didn't make me cringe. It broke my heart. And that was that people offered you the idea that it would be great if you could just be average one day.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
No.
Well, yeah. I mean, the intentions were good. I'll give it that. Back then I didn't know any better. And I was pretty, pretty ignorantly bliss, really. I was, those days I was behind my peers. I was, there was things I just didn't know. And I think things came slower to me and how I actually learned and how I would recite things. I remember I didn't know my ABCs until I'd say much later than some of my peers. And there's a beautiful story there that helped me.
Yeah, the song in the car. I love it. Yes.
Yeah. You don't want me to sing, I don't think, Elise. Yeah. There's a quick moment there with my grandmother and my mother where they they had me in the back of a car one day, after we went picking apples. And you know, when you twist the apple, you start to say A, B, C. And at the time, I didn't know my ABCs, and I didn't know what I was doing in the back of the car with my family after picking like 60 bags of apples. Yet what they ended up doing is actually having me sing ABCs with each turn. So by the time I got home, I actually learned my ABCs, and it was actually a breakthrough moment for me because I was behind, and it allowed me to say, you know what, I can do this. And it was two loving people that helped me fit in, helped me be me, helped me learn, and helped me really persevere.
What I love about that story, Darren, and this is where I want to see if we can try to connect the dots for our listeners and viewers, because as you know very well, as I do, that a lot of people in the world would really love to try to understand their purpose, discover it, to detect it, and to live it. And sometimes it's right in front of us. And so you say in your book that your purpose is to bring out the best of yourself and those around you each and every day. You love helping other humans around you. And I wonder if that early beginning of, really just starting so far behind and just aspiring for average was part of that catalyst. Was it?
It absolutely was. Really, it takes effort. It takes intention. It takes the actions, and that's really the start of a lot of things. It opens a lot of doors. And what I started to realize is I started to break through and catch up with my peers. I started to see things differently, and I started to be more observant. I think things were more obvious to me, maybe more clear to me, because I was a little bit behind, and then I started to open up a little bit wider with my eyes and my thinking and my curiosity. And it was around age 9 we actually started a local paper called the Sylvan Gazette with my best friends JK and Bugger, and I was a paper boy. And when I delivered these papers, people looked a little disheveled on the weekends. Back then, I had no idea what was going on. I get it now as an adult. Uh, yeah, back then, I asked my friend, like, what are we going to do? We got to find out what really gets these people ticking, like what brings them joy. Like, who are these people? Why are they looking at me with disheveled hair, half dressed, or maybe not dressed at all? And what ended up happening is we actually asked our customers, hey, would you like to be part of this paper? We'd like to learn what brings you joy. So we were innocent young minds just asking a simple question without an agenda. And we listened, we wrote it down, and it took off. Everybody wanted to learn more about what got people excited. They talked about their pets, their gardens, their recipes, their trips, whatever it is that made them really enjoy the world, see the beauty in the world, get creative. And I didn't know how profound that was at the time.
Yeah.
Until later in life when I had an awakening. And when I went back to this point in time, it was really special because what we allowed people to do is actually just share their story for who they are. And what happened is that street, at one point we're just waving at people. You just wave at somebody. You don't really, you just kind of wave, right? Half hardly. And what happened is people are waving people down and say, I want to know more about the story, because there was a platform. Right. There was a desire. There was a connection. There was this light inside. Like, I want to know more about you. It was pretty wild.
I totally get that, Darren. I mean, I know when you give people the opportunity to talk about their lives, and you say it in your book too, and you curiously listen and care and want to understand, it's amazing what opens in that other person and the connection that happens as a result. And I know you teach that, and so do I. So it's beautiful. And
yeah, we need to create that space
for
discoveries to happen, for people to amaze us, for us to actually hear the connections that are there. A lot of us fill the air, the space with, you name it.
Right. Yeah, I could say so much about that, but let's carry on, because there's so much from your book that I want to surface for our listeners and viewers. The next thing I want to go to, which you've already alluded to, and I don't know if you mean this one that I wanted to talk about, but you mentioned an awakening. Do you mean the one that you had in the D&I conference, or something else?
That's the awakening. Yeah, that is what opened my heart and my eyes differently. Yes.
Let's talk about that, because listeners and viewers, what I love about what Darrin shares in his book and is about to share here is, being really, when you really are honest with yourself and you recognize that who you're being isn't quite who you really thought you were being in the world, and that you have an opportunity to do something about that is magical. So your awakening, Darrin, to me is so powerful, and what you've done with that awakening.
Well, it was definitely, like I said, it was heart-wrenching, but it opened my world up in a whole different way. And I actually changed the way I view the world. Like, I thought I was a good leader. I thought I was one of the good guys, so to speak. And I went to this diversity and inclusion event. And, I was there with a diverse group of folks. It was 25 of us, and I was one of 4 other white males. Nothing wrong with that. It was actually beautiful because it was a 4-day immersion event. And the first 2 days, we really got to know each other as human beings. as people with children, as people with desires and purpose and just dreams that we all want to live. And I was realizing, and I was connecting to these people. Like I was falling in love with these people over 2 years, very diverse group of people that in the past I probably would have pushed away. I was pushing away people, possibilities, differences, and I didn't realize it until then. So after the second day, I started to get so uncomfortable. I realized I was living in this bubble of trying to help others bring out the best in everyone, including myself. And what I realized is that I was actually only helping people that are similar to me. It was like the bubble of sameness. It was terrifying. It was terrifying. And then, yeah, it was really one of those moments where I could have just pushed it away and self-rationalized and said, I'm one of the good guys. I could have said, I'm doing my best. My intentions are good. It wasn't good enough. I realized it wasn't good enough. And what changed in me is I actually cared differently because I fell in love with this group of people. And that's the difference. I actually started to care in a different way. And I'm like, why was I not caring for people that were not like me in the past? And it's not that I didn't care. I just didn't make the connection about how beautiful these folks were. So the next morning, I actually approached the group and I actually broke down because I was one of those guys. I didn't think you could cry in the workplace. I cried in the workplace and I wasn't looking for sympathy. I was just recognizing that I wasn't being my true authentic self, who I was born to be. I was unconsciously biased at the time and I wasn't aware of what the things were that were told to me that I actually believed, that I lived out. And I had to choose, no, that's not who I really am. And I had to own that it's still my responsibility to take that privilege in a whole different direction. And I needed to own that. And I was crying because I was recognizing that my bubble had burst. The air that I was breathing, it was safe, it was calm. I just came into work and work. Everybody else had to go over hoops and hurdles, go through hoops and hurdles to actually get to work, to get to the same place I was at. And I felt ashamed. I felt terrified. I wasn't bringing my best. I heard stories from other folks that they were living lives that were just not fair. There's all these injustices that happened, all the divisiveness that we all know about. We know about it, but I was just being, again, ignorantly bliss to what was going on until I actually said, no, I'm going to change from here on in. And I actually, at that point, changed my purpose. I was no longer going to look at bringing out the best in people because that was the bubble of sameness. And I changed to say, no, I am going to look at and enlighten people to the light that's inside of all of us. So I'm going to look at every single person in the world that there's a light inside of all of us, because there is this beautiful light inside of all of us that holds this love, joy, creativity, whatever it is that lights us up, that we are able to show out in the world, this greater sense of purpose. It allows me to look past all the things that stopped me in the past to actually see the beauty in every single human being. Because that's so true. If we actually let our guards down, I had to let my guard down with this bubble bursting. And when I did that, I expanded. It was hurtful. I was vulnerable. I was courageous, yet I was terrified. And when I shared this story, when I committed to the people in this room that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, I'm going to write with a pink pen for the rest of my life to show that I'm different, to be different, to bring in differences, to welcome differences as strengths, as possibilities, as discoveries. That's the space we're talking about. It's the space that holds the light, where we could all shine, where we all belong, where we're all human, where we all have the greater desires and dreams that we can live out. And I need to make sure going forward that's going to change. So I'm no longer going to live to be an average. That's the way I was treating people. Remember how you started the show? I was actually treating people the way I thought I was supposed to be treated. I said, no way. Everybody's possible. Anything is possible when we start to change our way and our purpose and our awakening. And I had this light up moment with my daughter that actually helped me see the differences that actually are really within inside of all of us. And I didn't know that really. It sounds so obvious. It might even sound a little corny, but I had to let my guard down. There's this one-eyed smile. That's a logo of it, happy and everything you see behind me. It's this one-eyed smile that reminds me of how unique we all are, and that our joy and love and creativity, everything that we own is inside of us. When I saw my daughter light up in that moment, I recognized that it's just not about her. It's about actually being present and conscious and actually looking to the other folks, my daughter, other people in the room, or people that are listening, to actually create that space so we can find those connections, so we can find those discoveries, so we can enlighten the love and the light that's inside of all of us. So I'm a little passionate about it, if you can't tell.
I'm with you. I'm saying here. I've already said 1,000 amens already, Darrin. Now your one-eyed smile guy, is that your watermelon guy?
It is.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the WG, we call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, watermelon guy. It's the one-eyed smile. Yeah.
Yeah, listeners, viewers, you just got to pick up the book. It's fantastic. You learn all about the watermelon guy and such. But what we're going to do next is we're going to take you through a tour of his framework, his possibilities framework. It's really incredibly well thought out. It's very powerful. It's very robust. So we want to take you through each of these components, the nuts and bolts of this, if you will. Then we'll kind of bring them to life as best we can here in the time that we have for the show. So I love this idea that you position them as the path of possibilities, the POP. Just brilliant. Of course, I'm right there. It's energy, it's vibration, it's all that great stuff. So possibilities, of course, the first P in that is purpose-driven beliefs. So inviting the world in. So that is just, of course, I completely align with that. So talk a little bit about this first one, if you would bring it to life for us. What is this? How do we live this P?
Yeah. We often say we want to make a difference in the world. We want to live with higher meaning, higher purpose. And if we don't know, or we don't know how to connect to that, then how do we live in alignment with that?
Yeah.
So once we start doing that, everything starts to show up, right? It's like we live with one word. If maybe it's a purpose word for the year, or maybe there's something that reminds us of something special in our lives. A lot of people find heart-shaped things in the world, or they find a lucky penny, or they see a red cardinal and they think of something spiritual. Maybe it's someone that they've lost. For me, it's this one-eyed smile. It reminds me of happiness and uniqueness and difference and inclusion all the time. But it's important. How do we connect to that and why? So this belief, purpose-driven belief, is about inviting the world in. Once we know what that is, we know the direction we're on, and we start to put faith around that. And then we have direction, and we're not sure where we're going to end up, but we know we're headed in the right space. Because if we align to this, we're actually inviting the world in. It's like that bubble burst that I was sharing a minute ago. We allow for things to be discovered and found. Once we know, hey, I'm looking for the light inside of everybody I see and everybody I meet. Anybody that's willing to have this conversation, willing to open their eyes up a little bit wider, willing to share their heart with me, because I'll share it with you, and we're going to light up together. If we're willing to do that, guess what happens? It becomes expansive. We're inviting it in. Where before I was pushing it away. I had this bubble was actually, I thought it was protecting me, but it was actually limiting me.
Yeah.
So we had to break through it by starting with, what is our purpose-driven belief? And it could be one word. I have a statement. It could be one word. Like this year, I have a purpose word. It's called wonder, which I know you like that word too.
I do too. Yes. I do too. Okay. Well, it already came up on, we've got to grab our first break. So listeners and viewers, we were talking about the first P of possibilities, possible, excuse me. After the break, we're going to keep going afterwards, and we'll hit O next. So stay with us. We'll be right back. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. I've been on the air with Darrin Tulley. He's the CEO and founder and chief of possibilities at Ignite Happy, which is a positive management consulting group on a mission to realize endless possibilities for human-driven organizations by guiding employers in co-creating happier, highly involved workplaces. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us, and welcome back to Working on Purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. Like Darrin, I too am committed to researching and writing my own books to keep lifting the world and do the work that I'm doing. So the last book that came out was in March of 2023. It's called The Great Revitalization: How Activating Meaning and Purpose Can Radically Enliven Your Business. And I wrote it to help the readers, who are usually leaders and business owners, to really understand how much the workforce has radically changed in the last few years. And then I provide 22 best practices to help them create the culture that they need to be able to meet those demands and interests. You can find out about my books at elisecortez.com, find them on Amazon, pick them up there. If you are just now joining me, my guest is Darrin Tulley. He's the author of Live Your Possible, Ignite Your Happy, Authentic Self, and Live a Fulfilling Life Rooted in Joy, Inclusion, Love, and Possibilities, which we're talking about today. So we covered the P here, Darrin. Now let's go on to the O for open-minded curiosity, caring enough to learn, which we kind of alluded to earlier, but let's generate that one next.
Yeah, the key here for this one is really letting our guards down, and having a willingness to be open-minded, showing people that we do care. I think that's the most important part of when we're reaching out to the world, that we're actually willing to listen and we're actually genuine about it. There's so many times I've been in conversations or I've seen people walk by, and are people really listening? Do they really care sometimes? And sometimes I'll say something just to see what the reaction might be, just to make sure we're on the same page. But open-mindedness is a willingness to learn. A willingness to step in, I should say. And the curiosity part of this is our willingness to actually take it and apply it. Because when you think about this, we all come from different perspectives. We've all learned different things, and we're living that out. And for us to be able to actually grow and expand, we actually need to take in different concepts, differences, different perspectives, different ideas. It could be just going for a walk and actually looking for the beauty in the world, being conscious, being present, just being curious about, oh, I see that there, or even looking at the clouds and say, oh, I see that there. Part of it is grounding for us to be, no, I'm right here. I'm present. I'm conscious. I'm here. And it allows us to actually take something else in, because we don't want to be burdened by what we already know, and just really step out of the certainty of our way. If we really want to expand and see what's possible and really live a life that's inviting, right? So we're starting to connect to our higher purpose, because we're open-minded, we have the level of curiosity. We're actually opening our hippocampus, where we're actually opening it to say, hey, we need to see what's available for us, what's accessible for us to take and align to our purpose. Then we start building on that.
Yeah, I love that. And then, reaching for what we way beyond what we think we know. So suspending what we believe we know for certainty and looking for something beyond. I just think that's so important. And you talk about that in your book as well. Which then I think really allows us to get to the next one, the S, which is skill sets unleashed, an ever-changing mindset. Right? If we're open to this creativity, then we're much more likely to be able to build a new skill set or unleash it. So if you could talk a bit about the S there.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. Our ability to actually learn is the ability to thrive. Our ability to actually take everything we do, if it's a win, a fail, or a mistake, we learn, right? And if we actually align about, wow, I want to see light, or I want to see inclusion as an act of bringing out the best in people, or inclusion as a way to actually see differences as strengths and power. If we do that, guess what happens? It shows up.
Right.
And we learn this skill. It's a learned skill. It's a learned way of living. It becomes our conscious way of being. It aligns to our authentic self, because if we're tied to something really important to us, right? We're living with wonder, we're living with a higher purpose, and we're actually developing the skills. Guess what? It's not only possible, it's sustainable. We're reinforcing the bonds. We're expanding that bubble, because the further we go out, the stronger the bonds are, the bigger the smile is going to be, the bigger the ahas, the bigger connections, the more space we're allowed to create, because it's expansive.
Yeah. And I love too, even I totally align with this too, is within that one, the S there, the skill sets unleashed, as you talk about how learning with change opens up opportunities and emotions. And so increasingly, I know you and I are both interested in the idea of opening the emotional realm, the emotional spigot, because there's more sensory data to pick up with that, more heightened awareness, understanding, and connectivity available through that bigger lens of emotions.
Yeah, I'm chuckling a little bit, because I was actually, before my journey, I was pretty uptight and wouldn't share a lot of my emotions, and I'm still working on it. Like, there's that range, yet we need to have that ability to connect. And as we build those skills, or we build those ability to actually access those emotions, we actually learn how to deal with them. So if there are times that aren't great, where we're sad, we're angry, we know how to pull through that a little bit better. But that allows us to actually really thrive on the upside.
Totally.
To accept happiness, because there's a lot of people that I say happiness, and they kind of look from one side or the other and say, I don't know if I can share happiness. I don't know if I'm allowed to have happiness. And that's because we're also confined in such a small little bubble. we need to start expanding that. So exactly what you said, our emotions can actually expand with it. And with our emotions comes more joy than misery is happiness. That's the equation.
Right. And to your end, one of the things I was going to definitely service with you is back on the, can I experience, can I have happiness? When I'm out speaking to audiences, I often talk about passion, inspiration, purpose, et cetera. And usually about 7 or 8 minutes into a talk, I'll often ask the audience, what are you passionate about? And I look at the sea of faces and I watch as they take in that question. And then I register there, how much data gets displayed on the forehead right here, right? I realize that for many, many, many people in that audience, they don't have an answer to that question. They do not know what they're passionate about. And I understand that. I've been a member of The Walking Dead myself. I understand. That's why I'm working on what I'm doing now. Same reason for you, because I've been a member of that. And so one precious life and you don't know what you're passionate about. No. Let's fix that. Right. Let's go find a way to find something to be passionate about, something to be joyful about, something to be happy about. There's just too much available.
Yeah. And you're worthy of that. We're all worthy of that.
Exactly.
I personally had doubt. I wasn't sure if I was. And I had to really start to change the dialogue in my own head. So then I could actually have the impact that I want to have other people. Like I am worthy. I am deserving. I am possible. I am better than average.
Right. And it starts right there, as we both know, right? And I love how you start the book with that as well. And earlier you were talking about being able to, learn to be able to handle those bigger emotions and learn how to move through them, which makes us stronger. And that to me builds right into your second S, strong resilience, turn challenging moments into opportunities. What do we have there?
Yeah, there's a lot to this one, resilience, because I'm not just saying it's easy. I'm not saying just go be happy or just, light a match and everything's possible. This takes work. This takes effort. And it's proven that the actions we take actually will lead to the future that we're desiring. It's not 100%, yet it gives us a better chance. And it gives us a better chance to actually pull out of the tough times, the dark times, because I know we can. I've seen it. I've heard so many people come back to me and just say thank you so much with tears of love and what's possible for them. And you got to believe me and trust it and try it out yourself. Yet there are a few different stories in this part of the book. There's one that's about noble acts, which I had to forgive someone that really harmed me in life. That folks will have to read more about that. Yet I realized that I need to forgive this person because I need to let myself free.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody has to do that. Yet if you have the heart and the ability to work through that and be courageous and be vulnerable, being able to forgive and have compassion and know that it's not your fault, when it's an issue that happened to you, then I really encourage you to work through that. There's another example in here about really looking at your reservoir of positivity. Like this is one of my favorite ones. Like this is something the listeners could actually take away from tonight and just say, hey, go jot down some memories throughout your life. Maybe it's just, hey, remember that Sylvan Gazette, that paper. Maybe it's the Apple story. Maybe it's the pink pen. Just write the title, like some memory, and write them down, because what you're starting to do is create this really reservoir of memories that you could pull from, that you could start to connect to, that when times are tough, you could reflect back to how you got through something, or how you could actually pull through it with your childlike eyes again, living with wonder and awe. And one other thing is just serving with heart. Like that's the strong resilience chapter. When we serve with heart, we actually give of ourselves and give back to others, we do light up. In fact, it's proof. There's studies that actually show that life slows down. I kind of like that.
Yeah. Especially as we get older, right, Darrin?
Exactly. And it slows
Slow
down.
this train down.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was just going to say, it slows down not to procrastinate. It actually slows down for us to want to step in and do more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like your acronym that you share in the strong resilience area of Be Strong. So you already said it, serve with heart, trust with belief. Trust with belief, that's huge. Trust is very hard for a lot of people, as you know, 2 ways. Then R, reserve the reservoir of possibility, overcome self-doubt, very hard, very, very, that's a lifelong thing. The noble acts you list, and then giving back. One thing that I know as a logotherapist, Darrin, is that we as humans are not at our best when we're just consuming life. I don't care how great and beautiful that life is. If we're just consuming it, we're never going to be vital. And I know this from my own experience of having a very beautiful given life to me when I was in my mid-20s with the maid, chauffeur, and a gardener. What we need as humans is to be of service. When we are needed and giving of ourselves, that is when we are most vital. So I love that giving back part of be strong.
Yeah, it's so true. I kind of again chuckle when you say consume, because there's a whole bit in the book about how we consume happiness. There's so many ads. There used to be a lot of advertisements about, hey, you got to eat this, you got to get this, you got to have this. That's not happiness. Maybe it's a small part of it, like a small part of it. Yet it's, to your point, it's about what we do with it, the actions we take. How do we serve others? How do we give back? How do we actually serve with heart? Connecting from here it becomes spiritual.
Oh, no question, my friend, no question. Which takes me right to the next one that I have to have you get your perspective on, because it's I imagine with wonderment, living in awe. You and I are totally on that same that wave. I've had some amazing authors in the show talking about these things. So imagine with wonderment, living with awe. What's that from your perspective, Darrin?
Yeah, it's one of my favorites, especially with the year of wonder for me this year. Like even just thinking about how we look at life, in the word wonder itself. Like if you think about the definition of wonder, do we wonder with skepticism or doubt? Or do we actually wonder with what's possible? Or I wonder what that beauty is around the next corner. I wonder what that light is in that individual. It's about how we're framing, how we're looking at the world. We're so busy looking past things versus looking at the things that are sitting right in front of us. So if we start to look with our kid self eyes, our childlike eyes that are filled with wonderment and awe, we could actually get our eyes to actually expand a little bit more. Like when you think about it, when you're younger, you're like, when's the last time we did that? We're almost embarrassed to do that. Right. So guess what happens? Our eyes are bigger. We get to take it in more. Our mouth opens up wider. We actually take in more air so we can actually, enjoy that moment even longer. And it's about connecting to creativity. I mean, we don't have creativity. That's what people told us in high school. That's what people tells us as adults. I mean, there are studies out there, several studies. I know NASA uses a study that they actually test adults on what percentage of adults actually have the ability to be creative. And they actually did the same study to 5-year-olds. What percentage of 5-year-olds do you think, what percentage of them actually had the ability to be creative to answer some of the same problems that they asked the adults? What percentage do you think?
100%. 98.
Yeah. One study, exactly. One was 100%. The other study was 98%. How about adults?
2 to 5.
You're spot on. 2%.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
What happened? We get responsibilities. We had to get a job. We had to raise children. Hopefully, if you feel those are stressful at times, what happens? It adds responsibilities that actually weighs us down. And we have to slow down to actually notice the beauty. We have to notice and look at the world a little bit differently. So this is allowing us to not only crave curiosity, it allows us to do it. And that's what's fun about the one-eyed smile. It's a one-eyed smile. Like when you think about the one-eyed aspect of it, when you focus, usually you want to focus in with one eye sometimes, just focus in. But it allows us to get creative. It allows us to connect to what really lights us up. And believe me, we all have the ability to be creative. And right now, I think in the world, it's so divisive. It's either you got to be right or wrong, right? It's 0 or 1, but the beauty is in between. Mm-hmm. That's where the possibilities live. That's the space we're talking about.
Totally with you. Totally with you. All right, let's grab our last break. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. We are on the air with Darrin Tulley, who's the CEO and founder and chief of possibilities at Ignite Happy, which is a positive management consulting group on a mission to realize endless possibilities for human-driven organizations by guiding employers in co-creating happier, highly involved workplaces. We've been talking about his possible model. After the break, we're going to continue with the last 3 letters and cover off on a few more things. We'll be right back.
Dr. Elise Cortez is a management consultant specializing in meaning and purpose, an inspirational speaker and author. She helps companies visioneer for greater purpose among stakeholders and develop purpose-inspired leadership and meaning-infused cultures that elevate fulfillment, performance, and commitment within the workforce. To learn more or to invite Elise to speak to your organization, please visit her at elisecortez.com. Let's talk about how to get your employees working on purpose. This is Working on Purpose with Dr. Elise Cortez. To reach our program today or to open a conversation with Elise, send an email to Elise, A-L-I-S-E, at elisecortez.com. Now, back to Working on Purpose.
Thanks for staying with us and welcome back to Working on Purpose. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Cortez. I mentioned in the last break that my latest book, The Great Revitalization, came out in March of 2023. What I did for you is I created a 3-page organizational assessment for you to devise and be able to tell the extent to which your culture is currently meeting today's discerning standards. You can find it on my website, gusto-now.com. You can score it and then to see how you're doing for yourself. If you are just now joining us, my guest is Darrin Tulley. He's the author of Live Your Possible, Ignite Your Happy, Authentic Self, and Live a Fulfilling Life Rooted in Joy, Inclusion, Love, and Possibilities, which we've been talking about today. We've been covering his possible model here, and we've gotten up to the letter B here, and that stands for Brave Authenticity, Be True to You. Boy, I mean, so many people, and it's a journey, right? I mean, this whole idea of being able to be truly authentic, it's a journey.
It's a journey, and guess what? We have to be vulnerable about that, right? Brene Brown,
Yes, we
famous for
do.
all this. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, she's inspired me with this one. It's a lot of this book about living your possible. I'm not looking for you to change or anybody to change into somebody else, right? That seems like it's work. We don't need to be fake. We've already been told to be somebody else throughout our whole lives. So this is really about stepping back into revitalizing who we really are. And I think I just said that because you just mentioned your book. Yeah, it really is. It's like, how do we get true to ourselves? And that's letting our guard down. It's actually expanding that bubble. It's creating that space where we can actually have fun. We can play. We can actually explore and actually state things that maybe we believe we were afraid to say in the past. Like I say the word love a lot more than I ever used to. I talk about, loving people and bringing out the best in people, seeing the light in people. I bet you there's a lot of people on the call saying, I don't know if I could do that, or that sounds like too much. But the reality is, like, once we connect into who we are and how we want to make a difference, step
Yeah.
into it, lean
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed what's going to happen. You actually celebrate your own uniqueness because you're actually making it safe for other people to step in and play with you and also be unique themselves. That's what's going on here. It's
Yeah.
easier to be you. It's easier to be me. It's a lot easier. That's what's crazy to me is I never recognized that. I was acting like what I was supposed to be, what I was told to be as a leader, as a person, who I was supposed to hang out with, how I was supposed to lead. I was supposed to have all the answers, but no, that's all wrong, in my opinion. I was doing things upside down when I actually started to invite people in and invite people's ideas and thinking and to give people the opportunities, move the megaphone away from my mouth to someone else so their voices could be heard because they're actually stronger.
Yeah.
That's me. That's what ended up being like, it's not about me. It's about everybody else.
And it's so beautiful. And I know for me, as I give myself further over to my authenticity, and one of my favorite things to do these days is when I'm out in public, I love to go and celebrate love that I see. When I see couples holding hands,
Yeah.
I see them connected at a restaurant having a conversation. I've come over and it's received well about 99.5% of the time. I've never had anybody say go away. Invariably, they're just tickled. I say, I just saw your love radiating from across the room, and I just wanted you to know that I saw it. And I love doing that, and I love sharing that. I see you with my unique eyes. I see you. It's special, and I wanted you to know I saw it.
Yeah, I love that you did that. You took that act and you made their day, right? So
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
gonna feel more comfortable as well.
yeah. Yeah, what's funny about it is, when I do that, I mean, I've done it many, 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 many times, and I continue to do it, is I usually start the questions are, how did you meet? And who picked up on who first? And, I get to like the 5th question, and usually then I realize that they're leaning in and they're ready for the next question. And I'm ready to go move on and do, I just wanted to acknowledge you, but they're ready for the next interview question. So I know they're enjoying it. And I love that. And there's a lift, and now they get to hear, oh yeah, we do have something special. Someone else saw it.
Yeah. You leaned in, you're curious.
Yeah.
And
All the things
even
we've been talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's like just allowing ourselves to show up, be silly, be connected to the world, be comfortable sharing that love. Maybe it's a finding, like I talk about in the book about I have found many signs out in the world, and sharing that with people was I wasn't as comfortable in the past. Like I think it's so important. Like some of these things are referenced as pareidolias, which is you see something that isn't the object of something we're familiar with, but when we share it, people are like, "Huh, what?" So we just got to get comfortable sharing whatever that is that lights us up.
Agreed. That's why I gave the example that I did, and in so doing, I think we get to your L, which is linking connections, thriving in joyful abundance. I love this, figuring out what matters to us and connect us in meaning in seemingly unconnected ways. That's delighting in the joy of the magic of what we live in, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, well, exactly the way you shared we start to connect in different ways, right? We're setting ourselves up for what we're looking for, what we're surrounding ourselves by, our willingness to actually connect and be open, be through sharing, be through hugging, be through just connecting in important ways. And it could be whatever that is. It could be love, it could be happiness, it could just be appreciation for someone, it could be gratitude. There's a lot of importance around having gratitude, not only to have it yet, so it shows up and you recognize it. We're linking to it. We're connecting to it. It's all about connection. What we're doing here is we've actually created a connected self, or really it's a wheel that's just going all over the place. It's just our ability to live as ourself consciously. That's what we're slowing down to notice and to see and to feel. And that's what this is all about. It's linking these connections. We hear that all the time. It's all about connections. Well, this is it. We've gone through these steps, going from purpose to open-mindedness to building these skills. We're resilient. We're actually living with wonder and open-mindedness. And with our imagination, we're able to kind of connect our brave, authentic self to this place. This is what really feeds us. This is the transcendent door to happiness.
Yeah.
Sustainable. This is it.
That's the word that I want you to say, transcendent, because that now what that means is that we are literally transcending to a higher, more bigger, vibrant realm. And that is, I know that sounds really woo-woo, but increasingly more and more people, more and more leaders, more and more scientists, more and more scholars are using these exact same words. They're not woo-woo anymore. They've become more of a standard issue when you're willing to really see them, embrace them, and allow yourself to be comfortable with them.
Yeah, that's so important, especially what's going on in today's world, right? We're surrounded by humans, right? We're still working in workplaces that have humans, right? So there are human needs. And to your point, this woo-woo stuff is actually the human gap that we are filling with this type of thinking and believing and being, and how we're showing up and how we're actually embracing people to step in with us, getting more comfort, linking what's possible, seeing what is possible. People are starting to do things they never thought was possible. And that's what's so explosive about this. This is where the whole analogy pop comes from. They start popping all around us endlessly.
Well, and then when we think about, there's been such a frenzy of conversation about, oh my gosh, is technology going to take our jobs? Well, one thing that we can do as humans is become more human. Technology can't do that. We can become more human. And I think that's the work that both you and I are doing, Darrin, is we're helping individuals, leaders, teams, companies to become more human. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're filling the needs, right? These are human ecosystems filled with human beings with opportunities and issues, and we're filling those gaps.
Right.
It's really more about leaders being effective leaders, stepping into this zone of actually working with different human beings, right? Through, spiritually, even connecting in a different way where it's heart to heart, just leaning in to say, I really care about you. Tell me what's going on, like those type of things.
Oh, yeah. In my book, I don't know how far you got into, but there's the EQ chapter, there's the SQ chapter where I talk about those things, where we are connecting over hearts and really, trying to really see people for the uniqueness that they are, like you talk about. But the spiritual intelligence piece is also becoming more talked about too. And you're talking about it too in your work, right? Where more organizations are leaning into, well, what does that mean? That means higher order source of values, including purpose, right? Including transcendence. That would be in this spiritual intelligence kind of camp. So more and more of these voices are converging.
Yeah, especially when you think about purpose and be it shared and be it the folks that we work with, if we can connect those dots, kind of like what we're talking about here, if we could sync up and actually ask people, what do you value? How do we tie that back into our overall values and actually live it? I mean, there's so many people that kind of roll their eyes and say, oh yeah, we have values. It's on the wall. It's on the website. It's like, no,
that's not what we mean.
Right. So we're talking about stepping into it.
Yeah.
How do we bring this stuff to life? This isn't about, skills and different tools and words. This is actually about living it and being it, right? And everything we do, every decision, every hire, every performance coaching opportunity, every way to coach someone up, how to get people excited, how to listen, how to love.
Oh, I'm totally with you. Totally with you. And if we then take your last E, the last letter in your possible, that's E for endless possibilities, keep it popping. So now we're talking about cascading, right? And making sure that it stays alive and living among other people, and spreading the joy and the happiness.
Yeah, it's really a ripple effect. If you think about we're at this place. It's transcendent. The door's wide open. We're living this way comfortably. We're more confident. We're worthy. We're saying phrases like I am versus am I. We are seeing this. We're seeing the possibilities. We're actually welcoming the next possibility. And they're all around us. And guess what? They were always there. And we got to this point where now we start to accept them. We start to notice them. We start to embrace them. It's accessible to all of us as long as we're connecting those dots from our purpose to being able to kind of live it all the way through to this point. And they're going to start popping like crazy. It's like making popcorn in a popcorn maker. They just start popping.
Right.
It's there.
Right.
And it's beautiful. And sharing it with other people will keep it alive, because then they're going to look at you with that look of, and what's going to end up happening is they're going to share it with you like you shared with that couple. And it's just going to continue to go and go and go. They're going to now feed it back to you. Like these pictures were shared with me, and many of them from a really good friend of mine, right? They saw these one-eyed smiles. And it's other people's they start to fill your heart based on the things they share back with you. Mm-hmm. So it's endless. And then you want to share back with them. You want to share back out in different avenues and different podcasts and another book, whatever it might be. Because it is possible. When we put our mind to it, anything truly is possible. And we have so much more power than we think we have as we think about what's ahead of us.
Agreed. And, increasingly, think about this, ladies and gentlemen, listening to this podcast. You've all been in communities and organizations where you walk in and the energy is so lackluster. It's just a down energy. And you've also been in places where it's vibrant and alive and it's like, what I want to say, electric, if you will. Well, everything is energy. And so what we've been talking about here is we really are talking about increasing the energy between ourselves, in our organizations, in teams. That's really all we're doing here. And it's beautiful. And there's ways to actually measure emotional energy, vibrant energy. And that's what we're talking about, is lifting that energy. So I just think this is important that we also situate that, because I think sometimes it gets hard for people to connect those level of dots, but they can feel that energy. They know how to tap into that.
Yeah, it's really about how we orient that, because when we point that energy in the way we're talking about it, truly amplifies the impact. It's a multiplier. It's huge.
That's right. That's right. I've always been good at multiplication. I never was great at subtraction, but I'm good at multiplication. I know you are too.
I love that one.
we got to the end of the show already, Darrin, and this show, as you know, is listened to by people around the world. And the reason they listen is because they either want to better learn how to increase their own fulfillment, commitment, connection to their work. They want to become better leaders. They want to know how to do business that betters the world in a way and how they operate their business. What would you like to leave them with?
Yeah. A lot of this is within reach. It's possible for all of us, truly. We just need to take the steps and recognize that, hey, we can have the impact. We can have an amplifier effect if we actually just slow down and create this space where we can discover. And it just starts with one step. This is a huge process over time, but hopefully we have lots of time left in life. Yet it starts today. It's that one step. It starts with that level of purpose. Going through the steps like we did today. And we do have more power than we think about our future. Because as we set up what we do today and we're conscious with that, we awaken to the possibilities that are ahead of us. We start to set the direction that we want to lead, the way we want to live, the way we want to love, the impact we want to have. And it is possible for any of us. And it starts with how you're showing up, how you're being. So take a look at that. And you can have an amazing impact.
Beautiful way to finish, Darrin. I'm so happy to know you, to have read your book, to be elevated by it, to share with my listeners across the world. Thank you for being on Working on Purpose.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I look forward to having you on my show soon.
I'm looking forward to it. Listeners and viewers, you are going to want to learn more about Darrin Tulley, his book, Live Your Possible, and the work he's doing at Ignite Happy. So you can start by visiting that website. It's ignitehappy.com, just as you could imagine it. IGNITE, happy, ignitehappy.com. Last week, if you missed the live show, you can always catch it via recorded podcast. We were on air with Colette Phillips. She's a communications and PR entrepreneur. We were talking about her beautiful book, The Includers, The 7 Traits of Culturally Savvy Anti-Racist Leaders. The book and our conversation really raised the cultural intelligence to help improve individual and collective lives in a way that I haven't really seen just yet. It's very fresh in a lot of her ideas. Listen in and you'll see just what I mean by that. Next week, we'll be on the air with Faisal Hoke once again, this time talking about his book, Everything Connects, How to Transform and Lead in the Age of Creativity, which will help you better understand the nature of creativity and innovation and how it can be nurtured inside organizations and beyond. See you there. And remember that work is one of the best adventures and means of realizing our potential and making the impact we crave. So let's work on purpose.
We hope you've enjoyed this week's program. Be sure to tune into Working on Purpose, featuring your host, Dr. Elise Cortez, each week on W4CY. Together, we'll create a world where business operates conscientiously, leadership inspires impassioned performance, and employees are fulfilled in work that provides the meaning and purpose they crave. See you there. Let's work on purpose.